Hi guys, welcome to my About page. Thanks for taking the time to stop by and find out a little bit more about me. If you got here by accident, don't worry about it. You can nick off now. I won't tell anybody, but stick around. You might enjoy something. So, if you want to know more about my mission statements, then you need to head on to the blog and go back to the first blog post, which is called Escaping the Slave Cycle, One Post at a Time. That'll tell you about sort of my projects and my mentorship and how I'm progressing and where I'm progressing to. This is a bit more about me, as you'd expect from the title. So, who is Luke Corden? Well, he's pretty unremarkable in a lot of respects, I don't mean that in as much as I'm boring or I've got nothing to offer. I don't believe that about anybody. I believe that everybody's got their own story. Mine started a long time ago, but I'll give you the brief version here, cliff notes if you like. Left school, no real future there. I left early, did my GCSEs, which counted for nothing, I later found out. Then I started in hospitality, and that was pretty much the end of my story. I'm still in hospitality now, and I'm 34 years old. Well, it's not really the end of my story, it's actually the beginning of the story, but we've kind of come full circle. I was young, I was carefree, I could pretty much go anywhere I wanted in the world. I had no responsibilities. I ended up going over to Australia at that point, sort of 17 years old, and really carving out a life for myself over there. I fell in love with it, I fell in love with the people, I met the love of my life out there. So in a lot of respects hospitality was good for me. And it wasn't just hospitality at that age as well though, I went through a number of different houses. I moved house to house, I moved tent to tent sometimes, I moved city to city, town to town. It was a great life, it really was. I worked as a busker for a while, I was breathing fire, I was spinning fire, I worked as a grocer, I worked at an all-night diner, I worked in a bank, I was homeless for 6 months, so there's a contrast. I did a lot because you can when you're that age, and I got a lot out of it at that age as well, but it wasn't sustainable and it never paid the bills. And those bills, as I'm sure you know, they mount up. Sort of the older that you get, you have more expensive tastes and you end up paying different kinds of rents that you don't pay when you're a kid, various different taxes, you get credit cards, you get loans, etc, etc, etc. It all builds up and you find yourself more and more constrained by the system that is around us. And I'm not unique in that. Most people fall into that trap that I've met, if not all of them, and I realised this was happening, but I wasn't doing anything to stop it. And I woke up one day and I was about 25 years old, and I had a look at myself and my surroundings. I was probably hungover from the night before, and I thought, what are you doing, Luke? You got to try and get yourself out of this. So I made a commitment to myself then to try and do something a little bit more, but all I knew was hospitality. So what I did was hospitality. I just did it at a higher level. I started my own business and took over a pub company, and I did well at that. I turned it around, I had a lot of fun, but again, I'm surrounded by the same kind of crowd. I'm surrounded by alcohol every night, I'm surrounded by good times and good fun, but not surrounded by success and aspiration. And lo and behold, by the end of that particular venture, I'd made a lot of money, but I'd also spent a lot of money. And I woke up about 4 years later, figuratively, not literally, and I looked at myself again. I was 29 years old, and I thought, Luke, what are you doing? What have you did this a few years ago, what have you done now? And I thought, nothing, I just did some more hospitality. And then it was starting to sink in that I really needed to make a change. So what changed? What changed in me and my thinking that has led to me standing here confessing and bearing all to the entire internet? Well, two things changed. The first, that was university. I thought, I'd exhausted every other angle. So I had been self-employed, I'd worked for the man my entire life, I sat at bus, the whole shebang. I'd done it all in my head, and I thought, well, what haven't I tried? I'll try university, why not? Give it a crack. So I did, and I ended up somehow, more by hook than by crook, very, very hard work. It was one of those cases where I'd have gone, if I'd known how difficult it was going to be, I probably wouldn't have done it. Got diagnosed with dyslexia halfway through my first year, which explained a lot about my school days and myself and my slowness trying to read and write growing up. Never knew. Anyway, I didn't let it stop me. I mean, I'd committed to it then. And I ended up, like I said, with a lot of hard work, coming out of that with a very good first-class degree in international relations, which is great and it's interesting. And for those that don't know, in a nutshell, international relations is essentially the study of power on a global level, how it affects us socially, economically, politically, how we can affect it, and the system that is built up around it, you know, how we operate or get stopped operating, in my view, within the system. And I found that fascinating, I loved it, and it didn't propel me onto a career. What it did do was reconfirm my thinking about our place as free individuals within society and how we should be allowed to spend our time and enjoy our lives, rather than this massive disparity of wealth, you know, that we see increasingly all around us. I wanted to step out of that and I wanted to step to the other side. And yeah, sure, I want to get some wealth on the way, don't get me wrong, but I want to bring people with me. And that course very much reconfirmed this thinking in me, but it gave me the tools and the intellectual ability to think my way out of it. The second thing, and by far for me the most important thing, is that I reconnected with the love of my life, the girl in Australia that I'd met whilst doing hospitality 10 years ago. You know, she was in Australia still, I was in the UK. I was in the last year of my degree, spent everything I had going over to Australia on a student's kind of money for 3 times in 1 year to get her. People say, look, don't get into debt. Yes, she absolutely had to. A, I absolutely had to. B, it was the right thing to do. And, you know, it worked. I'm happy to say that we're both living happily together in the UK. But everything's not entirely rosy. It is between us. But she goes out every day and she works hard and she gets stressed and she gets upset in a job that she's not happy in. I'm working in a job that's making me no money. I've cut down my hours right down so I can focus on a business, which you can read about on the blog. You know, so there's a problem there. We're both kind of in this issue where we're disenfranchised with society and our place, our role within it. We can't express ourselves, and that is a big driving force for me. So these two things spoke very closely together. And there is a third. You know, when you get into a relationship and you know that that relationship is forever, you want to be the best person that you can for that person, and you want to give them everything, you know, and you don't want to see them upset, you don't want to see them sad, you don't want to see them in tears because their job is so terrible. You know, you want to spend the time that you have left, and maybe it does come with maturity, but you want to spend the time that you have left making the best of that time. You know, the way things stand for the two of us right now, we can't do that. With my amount of debt and the fact that she's zero debt free, that's a problem. You know, I'd like to be able to look at her and my friends in the eye and know that I'm self-sufficient. That's what I'm going to work on, that's what I'm getting out of, that's partly why I'm doing this. So you have the 3 things there. You kind of have the academia turning my thinking, switching it back on to how it should be switched on. The love of my life being in my life, and the crippling debt that I just want to get out of for my own personal sense of strength and well-being. And those things have come together, and those are what are propelling me forwards now. And, you know, that's essentially me. You can find out a lot more on the blog, absolutely, and you can talk to me. I want to bring people with me on this journey. I'm absolutely, positively, 100% committed to doing that. It's an important part of this journey for me. It's not about just me, it's about me stepping out, bringing everybody with me. So contact me, you know, stay in touch, find out what I'm doing, and we can do this together. And a special word of thanks has to go out to Alex Jeffries, who's my mentor now, that within the last month has totally given me the tools to match my ambition. You know, I've now got a product that's pretty much ready. The development process is done, the research is done, that's all good. You can read about that on the blog as well. But his ability to keep you on track and give you the tools to progress is second to none that I've come across. And you know, I've worked with some good people, and I consider myself a good person as well. He's brilliant. check him out. There's nothing on this blog that is going to try and sell you. You know, this is a personal journey. So, you know, let me know what you think. That's about Luke. And yeah, that's me. Thanks for listening, guys. I'm going to cut this now because I tend to ramble anyway, as I am now, just rambling. Really thanks for listening. I hope you managed to get through to the end of it all. I'd love to know what you think, so stay in touch. If I can do anything for you, just tell me, and if I can, I will.